It's extremely important for countries to be able to report themselves and to tell their own stories, because once they're able to do that, then the international media is more able to pick those stories up. But more crucially, the way those stories are told is defined by the people who are experiencing it, who are directly involved. And I think that's a very important thing. I think we are starting to see a shift as the media expands and fragments with cable and satellite television and the internet. More and more countries are able to develop their own internal strong media and tell their own stories. Places like Africa, for example, the internet is having a major impact on the ability of Africa to change the story of Africa and the narrative about Africa by Africans telling their own stories. And I think that's going to be a big trend over the next few years, and it's a very important one. I think the great explosion of media with cable, satellite and the internet provides opportunities and challenges. There are far more places to tell people about the world and to tell the stories of what's happening in the developing world, but there's far more competition as well for the attention of the public. Public service broadcasting in the old days was a mixture of sugar and pill, if you like. So people would be forced to watch some issues that they might not naturally choose to because there wasn't much choice. Today they've got the choice, and one of the consequences of that, I think, is that actually media coverage is separating out into fast-breaking, immediate news, the earthquake, latest details, or whatever it may be, and in-depth specialist expertise, and what's in the middle is disappearing. And the real risk there is that we end up with an uninformed middle, if you like, of people who choose not to engage in the depth and the specialist expertise about what's happening in the world. Well, all the audience research shows that people take a greater interest in things that they know about, which sounds obvious, but it means that if, for example, an event appears out of nowhere in a country they've never heard of, they find it much harder to identify with it and to respond or to know what to do. They feel helpless about it. Whereas if it's something that they understand and they know about and they feel an association with, then they're much more able to respond to it and feel they can identify with it much more easily. The challenge that provides for broadcasters and newspapers and so on is how to be able to inform people on an ongoing basis when there isn't a disaster or there isn't a crisis, and how to gain their attention so they understand the kind of underlying narrative about what's happening in other parts of the world. I think one of the big lessons out of a long time spent in journalism is that you can no longer just tell people what you think they need to know. There's too much choice out there now, so you have to try to understand their perspective and frame the news and frame the information in a way that they're going to choose to engage with. And getting your head around into the mindset of the audience, or whatever your particular audience is, and presenting information from their perspective rather than from yours is the big challenge for all media organisations.